Hey there, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. My name's Kobe Sconnard, founder and CEO at Ideawake. And today, really excited to share our webinar series this week, which is 10 reasons that you shouldn't use Teams, spreadsheets, or forms to manage innovation events. Just to dive into the agenda for today, what we're going to be covering first is really just defining what different types of innovation events there are, and just which one makes most sense for your organization, highlighting the benefits and expected outcomes of using a dedicated solution like Ideawake versus something you might have off the shelf today already, like Microsoft Forms or Microsoft Teams. Then we're going to go into the caveats when using Teams, spreadsheets, or another form that's not a dedicated solution. Might make sense for your organization. They're few and far between, but there are certain scenarios where it will make sense for you versus making an investment. And then we'll end with a question and answer session. So, really, what I hope to leave you with today is just provide you with the resources and guidance that you need to understand which tool set's going to make the most sense for your organization's innovation events to maximize the impact that they're going to have. We're going to highlight the benefits of using a dedicated solution in dollars and cents to help you build the buy in for it internally. Once again, understand when it doesn't make sense to use a dedicated solution. And then, as always, help you look like a rock star to your leadership team. Little background on Ideawake. So we're an innovation management platform. We help companies more efficiently capture, evaluate, and implement ideas from employees internally, customers, or the public externally. And we're powering these innovation programs in over 39 countries and 185 cities across 14 different verticals. Going into the 10 reasons and the bulk of our session today. So, really, what we want to do when we are running these innovation events, most of the time, 9.5 times out of 10, is really maximize the cultural impact and financial impact that we're going to have for the event for each unit of effort that we're putting into it. Uh, Dedicated solution is going to help provide time savings before, during, and after the event that are measurable and significant. You're going to get a higher participation rate for your initial event and also in subsequent events, which is the later point that we have. I think it's point number 8. You have a lot more collaboration opportunities that aren't possible when you use like a form solution or even Microsoft Teams. Then, really, what these solutions help do from the back end perspective is streamline shortlisting, evaluation, and the communication at scale, making sure that that's personalized. And that communication at scale piece is actually one of the most important aspects of the success of these programs long term. It'll help facilitate change management after the event and then more effectively centrally and track the impact from your events and be able to more easily report that to your leadership team. So, really, like the main thing from a benefit standpoint and building the buy-in around these programs is really looking at, comparing solution to solution. If you have a dedicated solution in place versus using something like Teams or Microsoft Forms, what we're going to do for this example, we're going to use Ideawake benchmarking data that we have internally, and then also just cross compare it from several case studies that we have. And what we're assuming here is 500 employees targeted. We're running 4 events per year, so 4 types of innovation events per year. And the average value of an idea submitted is $4,800. So once again, this is based off our benchmarking data. This $4,800 could be swapped out for value of implemented ideas. But for a lot of the folks that are just getting started, something that we like to focus on is the front end of the process that we control versus the back end for the implementation rate until we get a better idea of what that implementation rate is going to be. So just looking at that example from a 500 person organization running 4 events per year, what you're going to get from a Forms plus Teams combination versus Ideawake, you're going to result in 279% on average more ideas from those events versus using Microsoft Forms or Teams. And then also you're going to end up getting 108% higher financial impact on average. Once again, based upon our benchmarking data. So what you have at the very bottom, just one caveat here, is the total financial impact for the entire year. All the rest of the metrics above. So for the number of ideas, comments, votes, as well as the reach for employees participating, that is just for a singular event. Just wanted to make sure I clarified that for you. But as you see here, right, we're trying to maximize the cultural impact that we're going to have for each unit of effort that we're putting in. So just imagine the ROI in terms of the reach that you're going to get alone. It's a 279% higher reach using a dedicated solution like Ideawake, right? And really at the end of the day, the upfront time investment is going to be relatively similar for these events, regardless of which option that you choose. Obviously, there's things like onboarding a new solution and vendor vetting, but I can speak for Ideawake. I mean, getting started with the system, depending on how complex your use case is pretty quick and relatively easy to implement. From an end user perspective, it doesn't require any training. So if you're going to be putting up a similar amount of investment of time and resourcing to get this event up and running, you might as well maximize the impact that you're going to get from it. Once again, in terms of the cultural side of things, it's that 279%, as well as the ultimate financial impact on average that you're going to see. Going into some of the specifics now, right? So how we drive that higher ROI, as well as the impact in terms of the cultural impact and participation rates, is what we're going to get into next, along with some of the areas that we help with time saving. So from the time saving standpoint, we do duplicate idea detection up front in our system. So you're looking at a lot less duplicates and not having to worry about merging those after they're submitted. You have automations that are built into Ideawake directly to move ideas to specific statuses based upon input from you as an administrator. We have automated communications for status updates to submitters, and that's one of the critical pieces. If you have a 500-person organization, you're going to be sending out a couple thousand communications personalized via Ideawake, versus that's going to take tens and tens and tens of hours, and most times, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do it, which once again is one of the most critical drivers for these programs being successful. We have smart routing and ownership to help with that change management piece. So based upon a category that an idea is submitted in, we can automatically route it to a specific decision maker in order for them to evaluate it or own it after the event is over. We have automatic reminders for those owners when they're not doing things that they're supposed to be doing, like completing reviews. And then we do have best practice marketing and communication materials to help save with some of that upfront planning time as well. Looking into that higher participation rate during your initial event, first and foremost, easy to use and understand interface. So can't tell you, I mean, I've seen these things, hundreds and hundreds of these events at this point. They're ran in everything from SharePoint to Microsoft Forms. Some of them are pretty simple to interact with, but I can't tell you how many I've seen that are really, really brutal. In terms of, you have to go to like 3 different pages in order to click a button to submit an idea. The form is 25 fields long. So really, like, what we come in with and the expertise behind rolling out the program is just making sure that it's easy to understand. There's gamification built into the system, as well as prizes that you can offer, and those are visible and transparent to folks. You have anonymous posting of ideas, A/B tested marketing and comms materials once again. And then something else that we suggest doing when I say innovation events is just a time-based event that is focused on a specific topic versus something that is always open. And really what we're going to do is tie, right, these specific features within Ideawake to benefits and actual data. So we do our own primary research. And that primary research, we did a survey of 700 employees throughout the continental United States, all focused in on why folks don't share ideas, if they do have them, and overall their attitudes around how well their employers listen. So this was one question in the study that we asked that you're going to see referenced several times throughout the rest of the presentation here. And really what it was focused on is, if you have ideas, why aren't you sharing them? So in terms of the respondents, 13.2% and 8.9% respectively said they didn't feel comfortable sharing, or they had fear of manager retribution. One of the features in Ideawake with anonymous posting alleviates both of those, thus helping increase participation rate. Just showing this actually in action. So exam one of our customers had a continuous improvement program in place. And before, they had about a 25% participation rate. After implementing our system, the actual rollout with Ideawake, the software itself, they saw a 78% active participation rate in that program. Another company that we can't disclose their name of, just for IP concerns as well as contractual obligations. So we're using Samcom, which is our sample company that we use for all of our demos. That company was able to, though, go from a 2021, they did Microsoft Forms plus email. And basically, they moved over to Ideawake. 2022, they had a 187% increase in the number of submissions they were received, up to 66. Next piece here that we want to get into is improved transparency, visibility, and collaboration. So I know these are 2 separate items that we have, but we're going to combine them. So just Ideawake and other systems like Ideawake come built in with real-time chat, things like thought starters in order to help guide feedback in a specific direction, as well as things like crowd voting. Once again, these metrics help improve the participation rate, especially having the collaboration, the chat, as well as the crowd voting. You might not see that much value in it, but once again, if one of the goals of these programs for the effort that you're putting in is to maximize the cultural impact that you're going to have, you want to make sure to have these other mechanisms, because it's much easier for those folks to get exposed to the program, and it makes it more likely that they're going to participate in a subsequent event. So how collaboration and transparency actually helps drive success with the numbers. One of the number 1 reasons, so is number 2 actually, in our survey that folks don't share ideas is they didn't receive recognition on a previous idea that they shared. So we break down that recognition into two core components. One is peer-to-peer recognition, and then the secondary one is manager or leadership recognition. So really what that collaborative and open aspect helps do is provide peer-to-peer recognition. Once again, number two driver of why folks stop sharing. And really just something else for stats, listening to employee ideas can measurably increase employee engagement. And this is a study by Gallup, and what they did was looked at, sample size. It was well over 1,000 companies, and they broke down uh, basically what the drivers of engagement were in these companies, and they looked at the bottom and top quartile. So at the bottom quartile, 30% of workers believe that their opinions counted at work. If that was increased to the top quartile, which is 60%, those companies on average saw a 27% reduction in turnover, 40% reduction in safety incidents, and a 12% increase in productivity. Going into the back end of the process a little bit more now, so streamlining, shortlisting, and evaluation. So what we do here within Ideawake, you have the ability to create custom scorecards. Those normalize the scores for everything that's submitted out of 0 to 100. So you can compare everything that's submitted apples to apples. You can assign specific groups. You can control the visibility of who can see those specific reviews all in one place. Looking at that streamlined communication piece, and I'd say out of anything that we provide in terms of just helping streamline this overall process, this is probably the number one thing. So what Ideawake allows you to do, a couple different modes of communication. You can send out updates each time an idea changes status within Ideawake, and it's a personalized message to the submitter, people that follow it, or other folks that have interacted with it. Those are all configurable settings that you can toggle on or off. You can send out targeted updates just via challenge updates that prompt email and Microsoft Teams notifications, prompting people to engage or prompting people, if they haven't done something that they're supposed to come in and complete that. And then this ties to the last two as well for action items is what we call them. So it allows you to send out notifications to folks when they're assigned to complete a specific task like a review or building a business case. And then if they don't complete those within a specified period of time, you can automatically send out reminders to them as well. So looking at the improved participation for subsequent events, because really communication is the key driver. And most folks think it's actually the implementation rate. More than anything, folks care from the study we found less about whether or not their idea is implemented and more about whether or not they heard feedback on it and how quickly that feedback was actually provided to the submitter from when they submitted. So number one reason folks stop sharing ideas, I'm sure this isn't a surprise to anyone, but it was because they felt like their idea fell into a black hole. Once again, providing that real-time communication and status updates without you having to manually send things out is huge. And then also not receiving recognition for ideas that they shared previously. Like I said, we break this into two components. One of them was that peer-to-peer recognition. This one specifically addresses the leadership recognition. Looking at after the event, so a lot of folks don't think after the event, they just think leading up to it and getting a high participation rate during it. But you want to make as many of these ideas happen as possible. So for the ideas that don't get selected as winners from your event, you have the ability to automatically route those to relevant stakeholders based upon department, based upon benefit. You can configure it however you'd like to within the system, and we help you set that up. Then it also has those action item notifications and past due reminders that I had mentioned before. Looking at being able to centrally track impact over time, right? This is the number one thing that you're going to want to do over time to show the success of the program and to make sure the leadership team keeps funding it. So what Ideawake allows you to do is just in one place from the innovation events themselves or any subsequent activities from when ideas are routed to different owners outside of the event or after it, you can centrally manage all of the inputs and outputs in terms of the value that's provided in terms of projected value from time savings. You could track error rate reduction and aggregate all that up into a singular value that can be easily shown and reported to leadership, and you can track that over time. So going into those caveats that I mentioned before, when does it make sense to use other options like Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, Slack, or Teams? Really, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to when you are doing just an internal event, but more importantly, if you're under 50 participants. So what we found from the data is if you have under 50 folks that are going to be participating or be targeted for this event, a lot of the time you can get away with using Microsoft Forms or Google Forms. Once again, the caveat to that is making sure that you send out the communications and have a solid comms plan. You're going to invest a lot of time doing that. But if you do want to go the route of getting something off the ground and can't get the buy-in for going with a dedicated tool for your first event, you can go the route of using forms or teams, once again, just make sure that comms plan is in place. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions, and thank you all very much for joining.